Hi, and welcome to New Moon Knitting. My name is Hillary, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry at New Moon Knitting. Today, I'm going to be talking about knitting a sweater for my dog. So, I have a dog. His name is Lando. He is just about 8 years old. We adopted him back in 2017. He does get very cold in the winter time. He has pretty short fur and his belly is fairly hairless. And so as soon as those temperatures start to drop, he is obsessed with trying to get like wrapped up in a blanket. If he's on the couch and there's one, he'll sort of paw at it until you help him figure out how to get underneath it. And so I thought to kind of help him out when the weather's cold, I would make him a sweater this year. And then I thought it would be really fun if I made him a sweater, since I knit a lot for myself, if we had a set of matching sweaters. I took a look at the sweaters that I've made in the past couple of years to try to decide which one I thought might be the most fun to recreate in a dog sweater. And I decided to go ahead and try to recreate the Halibut sweater by Caitlin Hunter. This is a top-down yoked sweater. It's knit in a DK weight yarn, and as the name suggests, it has a halibut motif that runs through the yoke of the sweater. I finished mine, I believe, in 2022, and mine is a slightly cropped version, and I can't remember what yarn I knit it in. It was a couple of years ago, and I tried to track it down, but I couldn't. But it's a kind of like a softer green and a cream color. And so I thought that some of the details in the sweater, especially that fish color work, would be really cute on a sweater for a dog. Once I had decided on which one of the sweaters I wanted to try to recreate, I went to my stash to see if there was anything I could use that might relatively approximate the colors that I used in the sweater and the gauge that it was knit at. And I did find I had some of this Lion brand Respun. This is a 100% recycled polyester yarn. It is a DK weight gauge, and this color is called Alpine. And so I had this color, and I also had this color called Parchment. So the green is definitely like a richer, more huntery alpine, kind of like forest green than the green I used in my original sweater, but I think it's close enough, and I would rather try to prioritize using up my stash than just buying something to try to get a closer approximation to the color. So yeah, so these are the yarns I'm going to use to make my little doggy halibut. Once I had picked up my yarn, it was then time to try and find a pattern that I thought might work as a good jumping off point for what needs to be done to make this sweater. So I ended up picking the Arnold jumper by Thea Clark. This is a top-down colorwork sweater for dogs. It's knit in the round, and the colorwork motifs are sort of a play on some like traditional colorwork motifs you might see, like snowflakes and things like that, but it also has incorporated some cute little dog specific elements like paw prints. So I thought it was a really cute sweater. I thought it had a lot of similar design elements to what my final sweater is going to look like. So really all I would kind of need to focus on is the charting of that actual halibut pattern. I wouldn't have to worry too much about modifying a bunch of other elements on it. The other thing I really liked about the Arnold jumper is it comes in 7 sizes, so it covers a lot of different dog sizes. Turns out, even though my dog's not very big, he has a 26-inch chest, and I found a couple of other sweaters that just were not quite big enough to fit him comfortably. So I really appreciated that this Arnold jumper, it goes up to so many different sizes for my dog. This probably will not come as a surprise, but dogs are actually shaped differently than people. And so the once I got a look at this pattern to kind of see how it's constructed, I could then figure out how I was going to need to modify the halibut pattern in order to fit the shape of the dog sweater. So, um, actually, let me draw this out. Okay, so if you are looking kind of at a traditional yoked sweater, you start usually with the neck, right? You make a smaller circle for the neck, and then you start to build out to this bigger circle, which is basically going to be broad enough to cover your shoulders, and that's where you'll split for the armholes and move on to knitting the body and the arms. And so the way most yoke motifs go, right, is they start with a fewer number of stitches and they work their way out to a larger number of stitches. Looking at the dog sweater pattern, it seems like what it is instead is it's just a tube, right? So you have your ribbed neckline up here, and then you kind of just have a straight tube that's going to take up the dog's body. You work in some slits in order to fit their feet and stuff like that, but it's obviously you're going kind of from a triangle to a square, so that requires a little bit of rethinking about how you're going to manage that design pattern. I took a look at the size, and obviously because my dog is smaller than me, and it's the same weight. It's a DK weight yarn, just like the human size halibut is. You don't get as many of those repeats. I probably could have done it at a lighter weight, but again, focusing on that stash, it's what I had. So yeah, I did the math, and fortunately, I can fit just about exactly 3 copies of the halibut around the body. So I'm hoping sort of like kind of 2 around the back and the shoulders and 1 more on the chest should be a good way to separate those out. Once I had determined the shape of the dog sweater, I went ahead and took a look at the actual colorwork pattern that comes with the halibut sweater. I'm not going to show it in detail since it is a paid pattern, but basically what I did, right? Oh, actually, I'll add some more drawings here. Okay, so this is the worst picture of a fish I've ever seen. So just brace yourself. But all right, so again, in the halibut sweater, the way the fish are designed is they start with the tails and then the bodies are worked down as you go. So what I ended up doing was positioning them so that the fish flow in the same pattern on the dog sweater. And then there's some other design motifs that show up in the halibut yoke pattern that I tried to incorporate some sort of like diamond shapes and things like that. And so I worked those in as best I could to fill up that empty space that's created, particularly at the top, because you're going from, again, like a triangle to a square. So I'm really happy with how it's looking so far. All I have to do now is actually start knitting it. So that's my plan for the next couple of weeks. I will check in as it goes with updates, but that's all for now.
Okay, so it's been about a week, and I wanted to share an update on what I've been doing with the dog sweater so far. So, the first thing, I really love the way that this fish motif is working up. I really like how I took the bits and pieces from the original pattern and reorganized them to sort of better fit the shape and overall construction of the dog version of this. I think it uses the negative space really well, and I'm really pleased with how that's all coming out. A few little modifications I made to the original pattern. So in the original, they have you cast on the same number of stitches for the neckline as for the body, just in a smaller needle size. And looking at the pictures of the dogs in the original pattern. It was clear that they just were stockier breeds than my dog is. So I thought it might be nice to have the neck a little bit smaller than the rest of the sweater. So I cast on for, I think it was the medium size for the neck, and then I did the body in the large, or I did the whatever, it was one size down from what the body was, and then I just added, I think it was 16 stitches less. So then I incorporated those 16 stitches in an increase round before I started on the color work motif. So that was just a slightly different thing I did to hopefully fit my dog a little bit better. The only other thing, the pattern gives you instructions to add a harness hole for your dog, but it anticipates, I think, a harness that clips in the back, where my dog's harness clips in the front on his chest. So it's kind of hard to see. I'm gonna need to like reinforce it, but I have integrated a hole here for so that we can run his harness through it and easily clip on his leash without having to like take his little sweater off if we don't want to. So next steps for this project will be splitting for the sleeves. I think with the counts for this size, it works out really well. I do believe like the splits happen on either side of the fish, but I'll just have to double check my dog's chest width before I do those. I did do a little try on with my dog, and I think it looks pretty good. It was bunching a little bit. I'm a little concerned about that, but I want to wait to see until I've actually split for the sleeves before I make any decisions on changing it, because I'm not sure if it's just fitting a little uneven right now because it's just a tube and it doesn't have anywhere for his legs to go. So I am gonna go and split for the sleeves. That does mean I'll be moving from using circular color work to knitting it flat. That is not a skill I have done a lot. So I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time looking at some tutorials. When I knit color work, I knit it with one strand in each hand. So I knit one continental and one English style. But when I'm knitting with one strand, I almost always knit English. So I don't purl continental a lot. So I think I need to practice that before I start the sleeves, because I don't want like a huge tension change. And I'm afraid that might happen because I just don't purl continental that often. So I will probably check back in once I've completed that next step of the sleeve holes. And I'm still working on the end of the body. But yeah, I mean, so far, I really love it. Let's see what the other side, yeah. Looks so cute.
Alrighty, so I am back and I have a completed dog sweater. Oh my gosh, it came out so cute. So the last time I recorded, I think I was like just about here. I was ready to split for the sleeves. And I was a little concerned about my tension because I was going to be knitting some color work flat instead of in the round. I think it came out okay. I don't think you can really tell on here where I switch from in the round to flat, because it is like, it's a polyester, it's not wool. It's not necessarily as like forgiving, and you can't really block it in any way, but it is the sweater for a dog. So I think any minor differences in tension will be forgiven by Lando when he wears this. So once I got to when I finished the color work on the body, I continued doing the sleeves down as written in the pattern. I do think I made my sleeve openings a little bit bigger than what the pattern called for. And that was just because I kept trying this on my dog because I was really afraid I was going to make it too small and it was going to be uncomfortable for him. And so I really I pushed the length of this because I wanted it to be really easy to get it on and off of him. You know, dog arms are not quite as flexible as people arms. And so getting it through a sleeve can be a little tricky. So I just wanted to make that as easy for him as possible. So yeah, I made the sleeves nice and wide. And once I was happy with what that size looked like, I closed up and then continued kind of in the pattern. You do a couple of decreases once you get past the widest part of the chest. And then in the original pattern, you can see on mine here, if I can hold it up correctly, there is a little bit of a difference between the hem that's on the back and the hem that's going to be on his stomach. In the pattern, that is a much more distinct difference. The stomach piece ends and then you continue quite a ways down, decreasing by one to basically cover the whole back of your dog. I decided I just wanted a little bit of a difference because I was a little afraid with that difference in length that it might like flap up a little bit. There wasn't much to kind of anchor it if you had this long piece. And so I decided to just make it a teeny bit longer than the front. So he does get a little more coverage back there, but it's not going to go all the way kind of to where his tail is. And I'm okay with that. What else? So then I did the hem. It's just a 2x2 rib, exactly the same as on the collar at the top. And then after that, I cast on for the little sleeves, which are again just a 2x2 rib. I think I did just about 20 rounds. Yeah, it felt like enough to kind of give him a little extra coverage without it being annoying or obstructive in any way when he's out walking in this. Yeah, and then the last sort of finishing thing I did, I think I pointed out the last time I did this, the pattern gives you instructions for how to add kind of like a buttonhole type thing, but for a harness. And in the pattern, the harness is on the back of the sweater, and the harness I have for my dog just happens to be in the front. So I added this little hole right here, and I just I reinforced it. I basically sewed a little bit of yarn around the edge to kind of keep any of those colorwork strands out of the way and reinforce that hole a little bit so it'll be more sturdy when I work on it and walk my dog. So yeah, I mean, overall, I am really happy with how this came out. I think it looks really cute. I'm gonna take some pictures and maybe some video of me wearing mine and Lando wearing his new sweater just to show kind of the final look. But I really do like how it comes out. I think if I ever made this again, one modification I made to the original pattern was if you look at the halibut sweater, this motif right here is like the first thing you do, and it's on top of the fish. So in the sweater, the fish starts farther down. And I think when I started this, because it was for a dog and I didn't want to do like a ton of math before I started, I thought, well, my dog is a lot shorter than me, so I will get rid of that sort of extra length, and I'll start right with the fish, right after I finish the neck line of it. And I realize now I have a lot of like empty space on the back of the sweater that could have been very well suited, I think, to having a little bit more of that fish motif. So if I could do it all over again, I might maintain that diamond up at the top, push the fish down a little bit so that they're more in the middle of the back rather than up at the top. Now, I will say this is meant to be a sweater that mirrors my halibut, and the human halibut is designed to have the fish all in the yoke with a regular flat stockinette body. And so in my defense, like, I guess that is closer to what this looks closer to that than if I had the fish all the way down. Final thoughts. This was a really fun project to work on. It was a really great combination of like doing something new, trying a new shape, and incorporating a pattern that I really love, and kind of doing the work of figuring out how to reconstruct a motif into a totally different shape. That was super fun. It's also a sweater for a 35-pound dog, and it's in DK weight. So it wasn't like this huge long process. It took me about 2 weeks from when I cast it on to when I finished it. So that was nice too. It was the first thing I started in September. So even though it's not fall weather here yet, it was definitely like a first fun fall project. So yeah, I would say for me, like 10 out of 10, love this sweater, and I can't wait to show it off with my dog.